Here's a headline from The Atlantic. When Karen Bass went to work in Castro's Cuba, the quote inside says, she's also the only person on Biden's list when he was considering her for an appointment who spent part of the 1970s working construction in Fidel Castro's Cuba with the Venceremos Brigade, a group that has organized annual trips to Cuba for young leftists for half a century. This Venceremos Brigade apparently is a democratic socialist, Marxist organization. And that's who Karen Bass is. That's her past. I think that seems Marxist.
Yeah, the Venceremos Brigade, translated into English, means "we will win," and it was in contradiction to the policy pursued by the U.S. government vis-a-vis Cuba and the Vietnam War. And with the embargo on Cuba in place since 1963, I mean, they are really operating, or were operating, in a gray area. Potentially providing material aid to this communist regime in Cuba when U.S. policymakers were trying to prevent any sort of strong Cuba from aligning with our enemies in our own hemisphere, trying to return to the Monroe Doctrine, right? And so it's fascinating to see, though. I think Victor Davis Hanson put it really well in a conversation I just had with him on my show, where he said it's this consortium of interests across the left. I know we talk about the broad coalition that the right now has in the United States, but the left has this weird broad coalition too, and it involves these superstar billionaires and celebrity class that would just prefer that their Uber Eats be delivered on time, and they don't really care about the migration status of the person who drops off the Nobu at the front door. And at the same time, you have the tried and true believers who do not believe in the justness of the existence of the United States at all and want to see the entire system toppled and overthrown. That's kind of your neo-Marxist types. And then, of course, there are your democratic mainstays who believe that this is much more a play of realpolitik that says if we let immigrants into our communities, illegals into our communities, they will be counted by the census, and our political representation in Washington will be inflated. And so it's all these interests, and I think you can see it in Karen Bass's own life, where she grows up as kind of this young radical. She now is a mainstay Democratic politician, says that she's not a communist, she never was a communist, and that she's kind of leaning into this more realpolitik, or this you could say neoliberal economic vision of migration, and she kind of finds herself in the middle of all these poles that pull the Democratic Party in different directions.